What if everything you've learned about meditation is incomplete? What if the gateway to other realities doesn't live in the mind, but in the body itself? And more specifically, in a single bone that ancient cultures revered without a word. You probably don't feel this bone. You certainly haven't been taught its power. Yet it sits at the foundation of your spine, a triangular stone of such profound significance that its very name carries the echo of the sacred, the sacrum. Sacred bone. For centuries, while spiritual seekers climbed mountains seeking enlightenment through silence and visualization, a parallel truth was disappearing. The ancients knew something we forgot. They didn't sit in stillness, waiting for transcendence to arrive. They moved, they danced, they activated a specific point in their bodies, not metaphorically, but with intention and ritual. And through that activation, they accessed dimensions of consciousness that most of us believe are impossible. This is not mystical fantasy. This is embodied knowledge. The great traditions understood that authentic spirituality doesn't ascend out of the body. It descends into it. It inhabits it so fully, so deeply, that the veil between worlds becomes gossamer thin. The Toltec shamans didn't practice meditation as we know it. They moved in spirals that awakened the base of the spine. The African elders didn't seek visions through mental discipline. They danced, and through the vibration of their movement, portals opened. The Egyptian priests understood that resurrection wasn't only spiritual, it was anatomical, rooted in the activation of what they called the Jed pillar, the axis of life, intimately connected to the sacrum and its vertical energy. And somewhere in that ancient knowing, we lost ourselves. We became trapped in the idea that spirit exists somewhere above us, that we must transcend the body to touch the divine. We forgot that the body itself is the divine architecture. It has its own intelligence, its own gateways. The sacrum is one of those gateways. When you move it with consciousness, with reverence, with intention, something unprecedented happens. You don't imagine other realities. You enter them, not as fantasy, not as hallucination, but as a shift in perception so profound that the world you knew suddenly reveals itself as only one layer of a much vaster existence. This is what we're here to explore. Not theory, practice, not belief, experience. The forgotten art of moving the sacred bone, and how that movement cracks open the doors to what lies beyond the visible. Are you ready to remember? In ancient cultures where wisdom was transmitted through the body and breath, there existed sacred knowledge that disappeared as reason claimed dominion over mystery. Among all elements of the human body, one was considered most sacred, the sacral bone. This is no accident. Its very name carries the truth. Sacro, the sacred. This triangular structure at the base of your spine connects you to earth below and heavens above. The ancients recognized it not as mere anatomy, but as the anchor of vital energy, the point where consciousness could awaken through movement, not any movement, but ritual vibration, intentional and alive. In Africa, elder shamans performed spiral dances that shook the spine's foundation, opening internal gateways. Energy rose like ancient fire, awakening dormant zones of perception that ordinary consciousness rarely touches. In Mesoamerica, the Toltec practice taught that certain movements, repeated with devotion, reactivated an original code within the body. They didn't name it through anatomy, but they knew with certainty everything began from the base, from what they called the throne of spirit. In Egypt, the art of resurrection was never only spiritual. Funeral rituals placed profound attention on the spine's foundation, for they believed the soul returned through the Jed pillar, the symbol of life's axis, intimately linked to the sacrum and its vertical current. What had to remain erect was not the body alone, but consciousness itself. Even in medieval occultism, alchemists spoke of the sacrum as the crucible of spirit in flesh. There slept the serpent of remembrance, not demonic but primordial energy, that when liberated, granted vision, strength, and direct connection to hidden reality. But why did we stop speaking of it? Because the knowledge of the body as temple was suppressed. Because understanding that within you exists a natural mechanism to expand consciousness threatens systems of control. If you can access other realities without intermediaries, without dogma, without structures, then you are truly free. The sacrum has that capacity. It makes you free from within. Moving it is not physical exercise. It is alchemy in motion. This is where spirituality becomes tangible, where technique transforms into ritual, and where the body, far from being a prison, reveals itself as the true portal to what lies beyond. Imagine for a moment that your body is not merely a biological structure, but a sacred architecture. Not a container, but a living instrument. Every joint, every bone, every vibration functions as a cosmic mechanism, a gear in the universal wheel. Within this architecture lies a forgotten center of command, a place from which not only vital energy can be activated, but the capacity to cross the threshold between the visible and the invisible. That place is the sacrum. The hidden wisdom teaches that the sacrum is a vibrational key. When activated with consciousness, it begins to radiate a particular frequency that awakens dormant pathways in the nervous system, stimulates brain zones that normally remain inactive, and transforms the way consciousness interprets reality itself. We are not speaking of fantasy. We are speaking of expanded perception. Most people live trapped in the upper mind. Thoughts, judgments, endless ideas. Some manage to descend to the heart, but very few have ever reached down into the sacrum. Why descend? Because the ascent of energy does not begin in the mind. It begins at the root. The sacrum is the primordial drum. When it moves, it marks the rhythm of an energetic symphony that rises through the spine, traverses the chakras, and culminates in the crown. But here lies the secret. If you do not activate the drum, there is no symphony. The portal remains closed. The frequencies remain silent. How does the sacrum move? Not with sudden force or rigid technique. The movement is circular, undulating, serpentine, as if you were drawing invisible spirals in the air with your pelvis. Ancient dance knew this truth. The hips did not move for sensuality. They moved for awakening. Each movement of the pelvis generates a pulsation that impacts the sacrum directly. When that pulsation is sustained, rhythmic and conscious, the bone begins to vibrate. This vibration does not feel like physical trembling. It is far more subtle. It is experienced as an expansion from within, a gentle warmth, a sensation that something is beginning to move in the very foundations of your being. It is in that instant that the body begins to remember, not ideas, but how it feels to be alive from the source, to be connected to something vast and eternal, to have access to what your ancestors knew without words, that you are not separate from the sacred. You are the sacred, moving, breathing, awakening. Once the sacrum has been activated and its vibration begins to expand outward, The entire body enters a state that ancient traditions described as the threshold. It is not a hypnotic trance, nor simple relaxation, but a profound alteration of the perceptual field itself. In this state, the line separating the internal from the external, the real from the symbolic, begins to blur and dissolve. Here, what opens is not merely an energetic experience. A portal opens. This portal does not lead to an afterlife as popular religion understands it, but to a simultaneous dimension, always present, yet inaccessible in ordinary consciousness. It is a layer of reality that exists alongside this one, interpenetrating it, waiting only for your perception to shift and recognize it. The initiates of ancient schools of knowledge, priestesses of Isis temples, Toltec sages, Druidic mystics, understood that sacral activation was no casual practice. What awakens is not only energy, but interdimensional memory. The body remembers things the mind cannot process, places you never visited physically, knowledge you never studied, living archetypes that emerge with profound power. Many who have entered this state describe encounters with beings of light, moving symbols, living geometries, and even a sense of being absorbed into an intelligence far greater than themselves. This intelligence does not speak in words, but teaches through presence, through knowing, through direct transmission. And in these moments, something radical occurs. The identity begins to dissolve. It does not disappear. It transforms. The ordinary self, the one that carries your name, your history, your ego, becomes as small as a spark before the sun. What emerges in its place is the eternal observer. Pure consciousness, awareness without object, presence without form. But here is where wisdom becomes essential. Moving the sacrum without preparation, without grounding, can open more than you can sustain. The portal does not discriminate. If there are unhealed wounds, toxic beliefs, unconscious trauma, these too will awaken, not to punish you, but so you can finally face them and transform them. This is why the ancients maintained their silence about power. Because power must be accompanied by direction, by wisdom, by understanding. Any activation must be held within 3 fundamental principles: emotional grounding, clear intention, and ritual containment. These are not restrictions. They are the sacred containers that allow the work to transform you rather than overwhelm you. In the moment you truly understand that your body is not only matter, but a living temple, your entire relationship with it transforms. What once seemed automatic, walking, sitting, breathing, begins to carry meaning, almost ritual significance, because you are no longer living merely to survive. You are inhabiting yourself with consciousness, making each gesture intentional. And if this knowledge resonates within you, then the moment has arrived to practice, to move, to feel. The movement of the sacrum is not a technique reserved for initiates in hidden caves or monks in isolation. It is a tool you can integrate into your daily life if you approach it with intention, respect, and consistency. Begin with a daily sacred moment, not an hour. Sometimes 7 minutes upon waking or before sleep is enough. Find a quiet space. Stand or sit with your spine aligned. Close your eyes and bring your attention to the sacral bone. Breathe toward it. Then begin gentle, circular, undulating pelvic movements. Do not think. Feel. This moment becomes your daily sanctuary, your conversation with body and soul. Transform your walking into sacred consciousness. What if each step, were a drum vibrating from your base. Walk slowly. Feel how the sacrum moves with every step. Imagine you are drawing invisible patterns upon the earth. This simple practice transforms walking into a portal of connection. Listen to tribal music, to shamanic drums, to ancestral rhythms. These frequencies awaken the body's intelligence. When you allow your sacrum to move with them, without forcing, without thinking, you enter synchrony with ancient vibration. Your body knows what to do if you grant it permission. Before significant moments, public speaking, difficult conversations, important decisions, activate your sacrum. 5 minutes of conscious pelvic movement returns you to your axis, dissolves anxiety, and reconnects instinct with vision. And if sitting in meditation feels impossible, then move. Let the sacrum guide a meditation in motion. Deep states are accessible through conscious movement. Sometimes the pathway to inner silence runs through the body's dance. Remember, your body is not an obstacle to spiritual evolution. It is the oldest, purest tool you possess. The sacrum is its forgotten center, and you, moving it with reverence, become a dancer between worlds. We arrive at the end of this journey, but in truth, we are only standing at the threshold of a real beginning. This wisdom you have just remembered is not held in ideas, but in movement, in presence, in living vibration. It does not rest in concepts. It lives in your bones. I did not offer you another theory. I offered you an act of rememory, a reclamation of what was forgotten, not because it was secret, but because the obvious is most easily ignored. The sacrum has been with you since your first day. It was the first bone formed in the womb. From it came the spine, and from the spine, everything else. It is the foundation, the root, the sacred drum that marks the rhythm of your being. Many traditions called it the throne of the soul, because it is there that consciousness rests in silence, and from there that consciousness rises when it is ready to move. Do you remember the times you searched for answers in books, courses, teachers, complex techniques, yet something always remained missing? Perhaps what was missing was not information. Perhaps you needed to return to your body, to inhabit your temple, to awaken the hidden door. And that door is not on a distant mountain or in a lost temple. It is in you. It moves with you. It waits. You may feel doubt. Your mind may demand explanation. A part of you may ask, "Is this real?" To that voice, simply say, "Observe, try, feel." Because the truth of the body needs no defense. It reveals itself through direct contact. Moving the sacrum with consciousness changes more than your energy. It changes how you see the world. You no longer react. You respond. You no longer survive. You inhabit. You no longer flee from yourself. You find yourself within. This is the true awakening, not sudden illumination, but daily practice. Moving, feeling, falling, returning, breathing, dancing until one day, without noticing, you are no longer seeking portals. You have become one. If this message touched something within you, share it with those who are ready to remember. Because each soul that awakens many more. Your body is not the vehicle of the soul. It is the soul incarnate. And when it moves with devotion, reality itself begins to dance with you.